Prepare yourself. This video is infused with Nvidia Gsync. Okay, I'm just out for a walk here with my dog Kato. This beautiful scenery. Everything I can see in my peripheral view is kind of messed up. I don't know what it is. Do you not just hate it? You spend all this money on a graphics card, you spend all this money on a freakily high-performing monitor, and then you play these games. We spend hours and hours staring at the screen, and they look very, very disjointed, like something's obviously very, very wrong. What this video is really about is tearing. So it's the desynchronization between your graphics card and your monitor, and it seems, regardless how fast the graphics cards have become and how fast the high frequency the monitors have become, we still end up with quite a lot of tearing. So this whole setup is actually to try and highlight the tearing and see if we can eradicate that with some hardware from Gsync. This monitor is actually a Dell 30-inch. It's running at 2560 by 1600 and a 60 hertz refresh rate, 60 hertz a second. I'm recording on a digital SLR camera. This really lets me capture actually what our eyes would see. We don't get the issues because we can change the shutter speed with the difference in refresh rates. If the screen stays the same or anything on the screen stays the same, you really don't see this problem because the last frame is the same as the new frame. But obviously, if the more the screen's changing, the bigger you see the problem. I'll try to come up with the simplest example and insert it here of what I think the issue is. Use this as a quick example. So the GPU renders one frame, so that's 1/60th of a second at 60 frames per second, and then it fires that to the monitor, and that's beautiful. That's really perfect. So with that, we see a fluid one frame in one refresh rate in the 60th of a second. But the problem is when the sync gets out a little bit. So the monitor is basically starting its refresh rate a little bit earlier than the GPU is sending its full frame. So this part of this would be, say, the bottom of the previous frame that's been rendered by the GPU, and this bit would be the top half of the new frame, and then the GPU would send the next frame and it would basically show that, and then the rest of it would get discarded. And to move on a little bit, to show that this is not really a refresh issue, or it can't be fixed by refresh, not within the speeds we have at the moment anyway, we can move over to my other monitor, which is a VG248QE, which is runs at 144 hertz, and it's only a 1080p monitor, and I'm driving this with a 780 Ti graphics card, so we've got no real problem there with performance-wise. The little grid anomaly you can see, it's actually Moyer. It's between the resolution of the camera and the resolution of the monitor. It doesn't really affect us in the eyes with monitors. It's something that you see like through grids and meshes and things like that. It's also important to say is though the motion blur, it's actually helping us on this video. I could get rid of it a little bit with the ULMB, but it's actually showing us where the scene is changing from frame to frame, and that's where we're having the problem with tearing. So motion blur is helping us out when we're analyzing this. Okay, so this is now on the ASUS VG248QE. I don't know why they have such difficult names to remember. And this is running at 120 hertz. So we can run around as we did on the Dell 30-inch running at 60 hertz. And you would hope that it would eradicate the problem quite a lot, because the screen is refreshing so much faster that you think it wouldn't adopt the issues from the GPU the same. Sadly, it doesn't seem to be massively different. Up close to things anyway, which is the worst scenario because the whole scene is changing every single frame. So that's where you're gonna see this tearing. We move really slow, or if we kind of look at something that really doesn't change, you see there's really no effect. You can't see anything. It's so smooth and nice. But if we do something to try and make the whole screen change again really fast, you'll definitely see the tearing come back. It's kind of funny that it could actually affect how you play a game or what view you prefer it in, just because you can see now how smooth that is. When it's we're just actually only the guy rolling a very small part of the screen is changing, and the rest of the scenery is not. It's funny, I've never really liked games with a lot of trees in, and I think this was one of the reasons that this problem's highly enhanced. Like, I remember as a Call of Duty Vietnam, I just really disliked it because of you're running through trees and looking for people, and it just seemed this tearing was constant. I think it's very when you're away from trees or things that are prominent, like trees against the background, it's definitely better over the large expanses of when nothing's close to you than the 60 Hertz on the Dell monitor. Now I've actually got a Gsync hardware, so I'll do a quick installation of that, maybe put a few clips in, and if you want to skip that, I'll stick a time up. It's the Gsync only works supposedly with the DisplayPort, so even when it comes out with future monitors, I believe there's a monitor coming out very soon, I think it's the VG248QE, which it's already out in Europe and it's coming out in America, I suppose, at the end of August, but it's going to be, it's an ROG Swift. So it'd be, I'm sure it'd be limited supply and in highly demand, but it's quite expensive. It's $800, but it's 27 inches. So it's the first monitor to include the Gsync. It's got pretty good specs, so I'm sure that'll be definitely a good monitor. Guess a good thing to start is put something down here, so it'll be nice and comfy before I operate. It's always nice that your patient is comfortable before going through a traumatic experience. Okay, we've got the back off now. It's kind of funny this, it's such a simple thing to do. I mean, that was a snap tolerance fit, so no screws. You just basically get a screwdriver in and open it up. If you use a bit of plastic and run around it, it's a little snap tolerance fit clip, so they just spring open and the thing just pops off really easily. Anyhow, yeah, the control board in there, it's not even screwed on, it's just holding by tape, which whoever put mine together looks like they didn't put the tape on right either, because it's really shy. This top bit of tape. Do out. Yeah, you've got DVI, which you lose. You've got your DP port there. You've got your power supply in here, I guess, which you switch out just for a plug, which you didn't use the external power supply. A couple of ribbon cables. So it looks that easy. You just unplug all these, and probably like a 2-minute job, really. Okay, we're literally 5 minutes in now. This is not even I wouldn't say mod. I think I'm insulting modders by saying this is a mod. Literally took the back off. Undid a few little bits of tape, well, the bits that were even any use. Whoever assembled it didn't think that they were all required. All I got in here is take off the power pack, take out this board, switch the new one back in. We'll see how this goes. Okay, there was a couple more screws on the side where the ports are for the display ports and the audio ports. A couple of screws. Then the little nuts that you put on your, when you screw your display, your DVI cable in, and you screw it in so it stays in there. When you unscrew it, the little nuts come out with it and you can't get it out. There's 2 of those, so they actually retain it as well. So you take those guys out. Then there's some little bits of metal that they're basically just pushed in, they're really thin, you can just finger them out of there and they fall out. No worries. Something to be careful of with the electrics always is these big capacitors, they do store electricity. So if you've just unplug the thing, maybe give it a while to, and then be careful dealing with that board always. As I say, no tools required whatsoever apart from a trusty little Phillips head screwdriver and the plastic tool you can use with it, but it's nice to have a straight head screwdriver. Okay, these cables here I took off the display board from the original unit. So the power supply, you don't take anything from that. Just these 3 cables on the bottom left, you take off the display board, and that's the only retained bits you have in there for the electronics or the cables, apart from what we unhooked before that's attached to the screen side. This is the board placed back in. It goes pretty well. There's quite a few nubules, I guess you'd call them, that stick out. You have to slide it back and forth a bit and it just slips underneath or in between those, and it really centers it out. I put some bit more tape on where they didn't have it. It's definitely better assembled than it was originally, so that's a nice thought anyway. But it's certainly not as bad as my PS4 that I rant about whenever I can. My PS4, the covers for the screws were holding the screws in. I actually literally just, there was a bit of a lump, so I pulled the cover back and the screws that held the case on fell out. Anyhow, so now the case will go on, plug it in, see if it blows up or not. Okay, this is now the ASUS VG248QE with the DIY Nvidia Gsync kit installed in armor-free. Similar area to where I was before. The difference now is that for some reason the G-Sync's restricting to 60 Hertz, the monitor. I don't know if that's the game or something. I've tried other games and it's not the case. It's running 144 Hertz. Because I tried it, the previous tests in this area, I thought I'd revert to here regardless, just because we're looking for the tearing. So I've actually stepped through this video in VLC, step by step, in the areas where the blur is, and I can't find any tearing whatsoever. I said previously, the blur is where consecutive frames have objects in different places, and where we had blur on the previous pre-G-Sync, we generally had tearing. The menu system now has been removed, and they've replaced it with their own G-Sync. I'll pop that up. Pop that. It's just basically the only thing that changes now is the column on the right. So you got the resolution changes. The hertz is restricted to 60 Hertz, as you can see, and the Nvidia mode goes between off or non. ULMB, that's only 20 Hertz G-Sync off, and then Nvidia G-Sync as it's showing now. This was the worst area on this container, really close in, and that was absolutely, I've been through this frame by frame as well, there's actually zero tear. We have blur in some areas, as you can see in the picture I've highlighted, but zero tear. So in my mind, this is really addressing a problem that's been around for a long time, and I think it's just been something we just put up with. It's definitely fatiguing, it's definitely a really big issue in video quality when all the other capabilities of video hardware, or computer hardware as general, has gone leaps and bounds. This has really been stuck in the mud, so to speak. You have to wonder what the catch is with this technology, apart from the obvious extra cost. And I think there's a one frame buffer. So that's on a 60 frames per second, that's 0.016 or 16 milliseconds you're going to add delay in your gaming. Can you handle that? There is also a competitive product from ATI, I guess, that's coming out in the future, and it's anything that's DisplayPort Visa 1.2a may include that. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. I mean, now the only thing I really want to do is link you to a website that's just absolutely fantastic resource on monitors and all this data, and it's Blurbusters, blurbusters.com. They have really fantastic comprehensive forums with a lot of examples they've made to show you the differences and actually test your monitor on your refresh rates and things like G-Sync. And anyway, head over there and just really top up on information, find out whatever you want to know. And as usual, with any of these videos, post comments, ask questions, and maybe I'll do something else with the next bit of hardware I get, but look out for any games I covered. Cheers. Bye-bye.